So I've done a lot of reflecting over the past year. And if I lost my entire Magic the Gathering collection tomorrow, and by the way, that would be catastrophic. I have a massive collection. I wouldn't rebuild randomly. I'd rebuild with intent. And in that rebuilding process, I would pay attention to 5 key pillars, 5 key concepts. So stay tuned today because we are going to talk about them. And I promise you, it is going to change the way you look at collecting, the way you look at deck building forever. But first things first, my name is Bobby Maximus from Muscles in Magic the Gathering. I am the Muscles. These cards, Magic the Gathering, something that's been a massive passion of mine for 31 years. When I said I had a massive collection, I wasn't kidding. I have over 40 complete sets. And as it stands right now, I have 67 full Commander decks that exist in real space and real time, and 5 under construction. And when I tell you they exist in real space and real time, they exist in real space and real time. If it is on my Mox field, and by the way, I will put a link to my Mox field in the show notes, but if it's in my Mox field, that deck exists with the actual printings of the cards, no proxies, real cards, and I don't switch cards between decks. Like if they're in that deck, they're in that deck to stay, unless it is a permanent change. And over the years, I've made a ton of mistakes with deck building and a ton of mistakes with, I guess, organizing my cards, collecting, if you will, because there's 2 sides of the game, right? You have the collecting side where you're looking at the value of the cards and you're keeping them, and maybe you have a special binder and a box and sets and things like that. And then there's the actual deck building side, which is different. We're talking competitive Magic. And by competitive, I don't even mean that you're playing CEDH or going in tournaments. I just mean like rolling in with your friends and playing a 4-person game, right? Because you do want to win at the end of the game. As much as people say it's about fun, it's about your deck doing your thing, you want to win a game of Commander. You want to build a better deck. That's like my videos that do the best are on deck tech videos and how to build better decks, because that's what everybody wants. So with all that in mind, let's dive into these 5 pillars, all right? Take some notes, get ready to screenshot, stay tuned, because like I said, this is going to change how you deck build and how you collect forever. So the first thing that I would do when building a deck, and I've actually got my Lord of the Nazgul deck right here to illustrate this because this is under construction. I would build decks with purpose, all right? I wouldn't go off vibes. Most decks fail because they don't know what they're trying to do. People, when they put a deck together, they see a commander, they think it's really cool, they fill it with cards, they play the deck a little bit, it doesn't work like they want it to, and they forget it and go on to the next thing. If you build decks with purpose, I promise you, you will get a lot more out of that deck. And there's a couple of main areas when I talk about building decks with purpose that I pay attention to, all right? The first one, and the Lord of the Nazgul is actually really illustrative of this, is total mana value, all right? Now, what's the total mana value of a deck? I pay attention to this instead of curve. I think it's a lot easier to do this. The total mana value is the symbol of all the cards in the deck added together. The mana symbols, if you will. So the Lord of the Nazgul costs 5. Mystic Remora costs 1. And Gate to Phyrexia costs 2. So the total mana value of these 3 cards is 5, 6, 7, 8. To get the total mana value of deck, you add all those symbols on the cards together. Lands, they count as 0. So the total mana value of this deck right now, I'm going to pull it up on my Mox field. Let me see here. I call it Shadows of the East. I always call my decks funny little names, little pet names. And that fit for Lord of the Rings, if you know the Lord of the Rings lore. But right now, this deck is under construction. I've already added the 38 lands. Obviously, those are going to be 0 for mana value. But there's 94 cards in the deck so far. I have 6 more genuine real cards to add. The total mana value of the deck is 121. That is absolutely bonkers. Now, for you average mana players, the average mana value of this deck is 1.3 with lands, and it's only 2.2 without lands. So this deck moves at an absolutely insanely fast and furious pace, all right? But when I build decks now, mana value is the single biggest thing I look at. In some of my older videos, I recommended that people have mana value under 200. And I thought that was fast enough. But further research has indicated it's not fast enough. If you look at some of the best bracket 4 decks, if you look at CEDH decks, all of these decks are in the 130s and the 140s. Like, they're winning early on. So you want to build a better deck, you got to pay attention to mana value. One of the biggest tips I have from people or for people is, and I've done a bunch of videos on this, so I'm not going to hammer it here. You can pull those videos up, is if you can just shave 10 off your total mana value, your deck will work a lot better. I was horrified the other day. I was watching some Magic the Gathering content, and people were talking about their curve. And they were talking about the average number of cards they use with 1 mana value, 2 mana value, 3 mana value. And when you figured out all these numbers, it looks like they have mana values of 220, 230, 240 in all of their decks. That's not going to work. Your deck is probably slow and clunky. So when I set out to build a deck, when I'm building with purpose, I'm paying attention to mana value. Sometimes that's why I like a Mystic Remora better than, for example, a Rhystic Study. But I look at the mana value of the decks. It's really, really important. I pay attention in my decks to a few main areas: card draw, ramp, and tutors. You want to invest in a deck? I'm not just talking financial. I'm talking like energy-wise, right? That's where you're going to put your energy. Card draw is everything. Mystic Remora is a massive card in a game of Commander. Want to know one of the best card draw engines of all time? The One Ring. The One Ring is absolutely massive. Cards are resources. You need velocity in a game of Commander. The more cards you have, the more chances you are going to have to win. So you want to pay attention to card draw. Another card that's actually not in this Nazgul deck, but is another really, really important card to card draw is Skull Clamp. I've got it in my Goblin deck. We're going to go over my Goblin deck in a minute, but Skull Clamp is absolutely massive. I think it's actually better than the One Ring in certain decks. That said, the One Ring I would have in every single deck. And when you look at how important the One Ring is, I currently have 19 of them. I have 72 Commander decks, 5 under construction, but 19 of these. And literally, if I could get my hands on 72 of them, if anyone wants to donate to the Muscles and Magic the Gathering, get to 100 Commander decks mission, I will take your One Rings off your hand. So you need more card draw, okay? Next, we want to talk about Mana Ramp. Mana Ramp is huge in a deck. You have to be able to do your thing, and you can't do your thing if you can't cast spells, all right? I recommend 6 to 12 pieces of Mana Ramp in every single deck that you're going to build. Could be Mana Dorks. It could be Mana Rocks. Right here, we've got the Mana Rocks, the Arcane Signet, the Talisman of Dominance, and the Soul Ring. And I believe in these cards, right? These are cards that are auto-includes in almost every Commander deck ever. Obviously, you would have to have your color-specific Talisman, but those are of the utmost importance. You need more mana. People fall victim to getting these big, splashy cards. I've been picking on Jumbo Cactuar like crazy lately. But like, remember that came up in Final Fantasy? People were like, oh my gosh, it has plus 999999999 damage. Like, this is a world ender. But it turns out the card wasn't that great. You know what's great? A really good Mana Dork or a Mana Rock. The third area is tutors. All right, and here are 2, Ring Sight and the Demonic Tutor. You need more tutors in your deck. They're about intent, not flexibility. Go get the piece that you need. People try to have multiple win cons stacked in their deck. No, go with a singular win con and then have all the tutors to go get it. At a CEDH level, that's how the Thassa's Oracle combo works. Yes, you're going to have Thassa's Oracle. Yes, you're going to have Tainted Pact and Demonic Consultation. But you know what else you have in that deck? An Imperial Seal, a Diabolic Intent, a Diabolic Tutor, a Vampiric Tutor. Like, you are going, maybe a Merchant Scroll. Maybe you're going to have a Mystical Tutor. Like, you have all the tutors to go find those cards so you can enact that win condition. There's another area I pay attention to. It's called permission and interaction. I'm going to tell you how to play the game. I want to make sure in my deck and in my Nazgul deck, just to show you that I'm not all talk, I have a bunch of these type of cards. So I have something like a Brewing Basics, great card. I have a Spell Pierce. I have a Chain of Vapor. I have a Narset's Reversal. I have an Offer You Can't Refuse. By the way, the best $1 counterspell you will ever find. I have a Strix Serenade. I have a classic counterspell. I have a disallow. I have a fell the profane, all right? I have a glorious gale. I have a 3 steps ahead. I have a cryptic command. Like, I have loaded this deck up randomly. Here's one of the best ramp cards of all time that you could ever use. But I have loaded this deck up with permission and interaction. Permission, you could also look at a card like the Draenith Magistrate. You could look at a card like Voice of Victory, Grand Abolisher. Tell people how they're going to play when. Win conditions in your deck, you want them to be clear, compact, and repeatable. Now, I'll tell you where this deck goes off the rails a little bit, just to give you a little bit of a deck building lesson. And let me look for the actual cards. I have the Witch King of Agnar. Now, that's in there because collectability, of course, all right? But there are a couple other cards I have that if I was really trying to make this competitive, I would cut. The Witch King, the Bringer of Ruin, and we have the Ring Wraiths. So when I look at this deck, when I look at this commander, and here's what I talk about building with intent. Flying, Wraiths you control have protection from Ring Bears. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 3/3 black Wraith creature token with Menace. Then, if you control 9 or more Wraiths you control have base power and toughness 9/9 until the end of turn. So, what kind of cards do I want to include? Sure, you think you're going to include all the Nazgul, because if you have 9 Wraiths, you're going to play better. But you know what works better than that in this deck? A Dark Ritual. Why? It's a casting cost of 1. But not only because it's an instant, right? Not only does it just cost 1 and get you the 3 mana, it also gets you a 3/3 black Wraith creature token. And here's the best part. If you can cast an instant on somebody else's turn, you still get to make that token, so you can kind of double dip. So I want to put as many 1-drop instants and interrupts in this deck as possible. Hence, why you're seeing like something like Spell Pierce, Boomerang Basics. If all I ever do is get a 3/3 black Wraith creature token with Menace out of that card, like what an incredible rate. So what people do when they lack focus, they're like, I'm building a Nazgul deck, and they stick in the Ring Wraiths, stick in a Witch King Bringer of Ruin and a Witch King of Angmar when they aren't really needed, all right? If I was going to build this deck to be hyper competitive, I could take 5, 6, and 6, 17 off the mana value, hit in 3 1-drop really good instants, and all of a sudden my deck is way faster, it's way more pointed, and way better. Now, if I just want to build a Nazgul deck, and that's why I'm including these because I want the flavor, that's totally okay. But again, you're still building with purpose, all right? Finally, pressure. You want a deck that puts pressure on other people. You want a deck that you're aiming to win by turn 4, turn 5, or turn 3, or whatever it is. I get there's a bracket system. You shouldn't expect to win by a certain time, but I can always hold cards in my hand if I want to be a more fair player. I want my deck to work as good as possible. Good decks function in purpose-built decks and games. So there's my talk on building decks with purpose. A lot of times in the past, I would just kind of throw a deck together. Oh, I want to build an elf deck. Let me go find some elves. And that's as far as it went. Over the years, I've got more and more diets. That's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2, I want you to organize like a builder, not a hoarder, all right? One of my biggest mistakes in Magic the Gathering was not collecting the right way. Now, I had binders with complete sets, right? I had some binders with loose cards. I had some decks. But one thing I didn't pay a lot of attention to was my bulk. Now, this is a special box because this is my bulk rares. Just as an example, I have a giant stack of white bulk rares. I actually have 4 of these boxes, so I can keep all my bulk whites, all my bulk blues, all my bulk blacks, greens, multicolors, artifacts, colorless. I've got them all organized. Now, why is that important? It didn't matter when I only had 5 commander decks. It didn't even really matter when I had 10. But now that I've tried to build 67 commander decks, well, I have built 67 commander decks, but the goal is 100. There are always cards I'm looking for. And the trade-in rate to these cards to your local LGS is not good. You're never going to get your money's worth. And so what I found myself doing is I would sell a whole bunch of cards for like $90, like bulk cards, buy a couple of things, and then I would have to go rebuy all those cards because I needed them for the new decks I was going to build. And you always see, like, remember Nadu came out, and then all of a sudden that one artifact, I can't remember what it is. It Choku? I can't remember what the name of it now, but the price went through the roof. With this new set that came out, Caltrops went through the roof. Like, there are cards that go bananas when a new set comes out, and you probably had that sitting in your like bulk box. So don't sell your bulk. All right. You also want to have these staples that you're going to use, or these cards readily accessible. So the other thing I don't trade in, talking about bulk rares, I also don't trade in my bulk, period. Let me get a big box here. I kind of came prepared, pardon the presentation, but this is just a real guide, dude. Real Magic Gathering. Look at this. Just a big box of bulk. I've actually got 5 of these now, where I have every single thing organized by set. So if I need a card from Murders of Carlisle Manor, and sometimes you get these cards that you need to go look, for a random card from Murders of Carlisle Manor, like an uncommon, and you don't have it, and you got to buy it, but you might have had it at one point. And I think the going rate on these, like $10 for a box of these. But then when you go buy that card, like each card's going to cost you $1 or whatever. I do not trade these in anymore. I have them all organized and set out so that when I'm building decks, I can get the cards that I need, hopefully without buying them. And then I keep all of my other cards. Now, I like Game Genetics. They don't sponsor me, but these are the decks that I went with. I think it's a really good price for the quality of them. But I've got all my Commander decks organized, labeled, set up. So I've got all those organized. And most people have that set, so I won't harp on that. But they've got their Commander decks organized. And then finally, probably the most important part, I've got my side computer over here. I have all my decks and put it on my box field. And I never used to do that, but for organization, it helps. It tells me what bracket they're in. It tells me what game changers are in them. It tells me what versions of the cards I have. It tells me my total mana value. Now, when I'm at the card store and I see a card I might want to buy, I can just look up my stuff online and decide, do I have it? Do I have enough of them? Can I do this? It just really, really helps. I didn't start putting on my decks online until I was like at depth 30. And then it was a massive undertaking to try to input them. And I had no real sense of the data of the decks. Now, whenever I build a deck, it starts with the online process, all right? I build physical decks, but I do it in conjunction with the online tool. It's helped me a ton, all right? So that really, really helps. Now, point 3, I've kind of already covered in talking about organization and separating my stuff into bulk and golds and sets and things like that. But that's another thing I forgot to talk about that I should. Where is my binder here? I want you to start getting binders and try to build complete sets. Even if you never complete the set, that's fine. It's just a great way to keep track of your cards. I got a bunch of these binders. Now, this is something I'm really, really proud of. This is a 100% complete set of Double Masters. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things. It's really actually fun set to collect. It's got some of the best cards. Look at that Imperial Seal right here. You have no idea how bad I want to rip this set apart to get that card. But I also keep complete sets, so I have full access to cards for building purposes. Now, point number 3, we talked about that. Don't sell your collection. Listen, and I'm actually going to show a couple of things here, and we're going to talk about investing a little bit. But in 2016, I actually pulled up some of my old Card Kingdom orders. Look at how bonkers this is. A Yawgmoth's Will, I got one for $17.49. Imagine you were the fool that sold Yawgmoth's Will for like $10 to the card store back in the day. Look at Survival of the Fittest. That's bonkers. $38.24. Like, those are, I don't even know what those are worth right now. I think those are worth like $300. Let me look up Survival of the Fittest. This is what Moxfield's great too. But the Woodland Realm, that's what my elf deck is called. It looks like Survival of the Fittest right now is $349. Like, you were the guy that sold it. I bought it for $38.24 back in the day. I got a Plateau for $39. I really need a time machine, right? So I don't sell my collection anymore because it always works out bad for me. I try to keep up onto my cards because it never looks good when I sell. Now, there are times it's good to sell, and there's a whole investment side to this game and all that kind of stuff. Now, I have a massive collection. I talk about the value a lot because it's important to me from a collectability perspective, but I'm not like a finance guy that's like buying and selling cards and wheeling and dealing. In fact, I don't sell any cards anymore. My goal is to never have to sell them. But if I could go back in time, I made so many mistakes trading in my bulk rares, trading in cards I had to the card store to try and get other cards or packs to rip. I would never sell cards. If I could go back in time, I would just keep on to all my stuff because now that I'm building decks, I need the cards. And bulk isn't useless. That's how people look at it. The way I look at it now is its future flexibility. All right? Now, 4 and 5. And they are kind of put together here. Number 4, buy staples before toys. We've all fallen victim of this, where we see a new card from a new set and we run out and get it. I need this card right now. I was trying to think of an example of that if I have any in my Nazgul deck. But like maybe it was the Lord of the Nazgul, right? Maybe you're like, I really, really need that card and I love that version. We're actually going to go with that one. And you go buy that card and you never, ever, ever use it, all right? You'll be a much better purchase investing in the One Ring. Why? That's literally, I said, a staple earlier. I can use this in every single deck that I build. You know what else I can use in every single deck that I build? A Cryptic Command. You know what else I can use? A Fel the Profane. Obviously, I can't use it in a green deck, but you get the picture. A Mystic Remora. You have any idea how good a gate to Phyrexia is? Sacrifice one of your creatures during your upkeep to destroy any one artifact. You may not sacrifice a creature that's already on its way to the graveyard, but mana removal is huge. Now, unfortunately, this card got banned. I think it's going to come off the banned list soon, so I'm trying to buy a lot of these up along with Jeweled Lotuses. But this card right here, Mana Crypt, it's an absolute staple. Snapcaster Mage, that is a staple. Dark Confident, I think that's a great card, and it's a staple. Spellskite's always useful. So I try to buy these staple cards instead of toys. I look at something like the Nazgul as a toy because this is pretty much useless to me outside of a Wraith or a Nazgul deck. Same thing as Lord of the Nazgul. I'm not ripping on them. Clearly, I built a deck. I love them, but I'm looking for staples instead of toys. And the staples I'm looking for are Mana Rocks, Tutors, removal, card draw engines, things like that. Let's look at something like the Demonic Tutor. I don't think that's ever a bad investment. And to tell you the scope of how much I love the Demonic Tutor, let's see how many I have. Demonic Tutor. I currently have 28 of them, and I probably need more. But I will always buy a Demonic Tutor before the new flashy card, like a Tezzeret Cool Captain. Great card, by the way. Or like the Ugin. Or like an Anointed Procession. Anointed Procession is tremendous in a token deck. Like, it's not a bad purchase. But the Demonic Tutor, anytime you're building a black deck, it's a 100% auto-include. So staples before toys. Mana Rocks, Tutors, removal, card draw engines. Lands that go in multiple decks, that's huge. One of the ways I judge the quality of a set is its rare land cycle. One of the reasons I love Ether Grift. One of the reasons I love Murder at Karlov Manor. The final thing, and take it from a guy that's wasted a lot of money. Be smart about MTG as an investment. When you talk about money, people get rangy, as if cards shouldn't be worth something. The reality of the world we live in is these cards are worth something, like a Demonic Tutor. That version of it, let's take a look. What does this go for? Do we know? Let's look it up online right now. This Demonic Tutor is currently $74, right? For a good condition one. I mean, maybe for a played one, you can get it for, this actually is a little played. You could probably get this for $50, but there is a price to these cards. So you got to pay attention to it as an investment. I showed you these cards earlier. When you buy a Yawgmoth Will for $17. You know why that shot up in price? The reserve list. You know why Plateau shot up in price? The reserve list. You know why Survival of the Fittest has gone through the roof? The reserve list. Gate to Phyrexia. So try to buy cards that are on the reserve list and not at a great risk of being reprinted, if you will. Buy cards you actually play. Again, if I'm going to invest in a card, it's going to be a Demonic Tutor or a One Ring, because I'm going to use a One Ring action for the Demonic Tutor, because I will use a One Ring in every single deck that I have. Liquidity probably matters more than peak price. Peak price is cool, but how fast can you get rid of it? Someone will always want a Demonic Tutor. Someone will always want a dual land. Somebody will always want a Yawgmoth Will. That may or may not be true with that super special printing of Swords to Plowshares that you have laying around. Avoid chasing hype. And Magic the Gathering, it should enhance your enjoyment, not stress you out with cost and stuff like that. Basically, the best Magic investment is a card that you're happy to trust. So those are my 5 pillars. Build decks with a purpose, not vibes. Organize like a builder, not a hoarder. Don't sell your collection, especially your book. Buy staples, not toys, and be smart about MTG as an investment. If I started over today, I wouldn't rush. I wouldn't go crazy. I would build slowly with intent, and I would play the waiting game. Instead of Lorwyn just came out, rushing and getting that new Lorwyn card, wait to see what the market does and wait till it settles. I don't have to put it in my commander deck tomorrow. I'd be a lot more patient. And finally, rule number 6. If you take anything from this podcast at all, I'm calling this a podcast, to this show at all. One more thing for you. Don't listen to what other people say. I just gave you a bunch of advice, but do what makes you happy. There's been so many times I've watched a show. I've watched one of these Magic the Gathering experts, and I've said, I have to rework my deck because they said I need this many lands. I went and bought this card because they said I had to buy this card. I took this out of my deck because there was a show that I was watching, and they said that Commander Sphere was now unplayable. And they didn't like anyone that put a Commander Sphere in a deck. And if you use Commander Sphere, you're stupid. I love the Commander Sphere, by the way. My point is, do what makes you happy and do what works, and your decks will give real feedback. If you're winning, if you're happy, if you're enjoying the process, you're doing the right thing. So don't constantly switch up your point of view every single day when you listen to a lot of new content creators. And a lot of content creators are just putting rage bait out there, right? They're giving you a different, one day they're telling you mana value matters. The next, I think I'm the only one that really talks about mana value, but people talk about curve and things like that, but they'll tell you it matters one day, it doesn't matter the next. They'll tell you finance is good one day, they'll tell you it's not good the next. One day they tell you to buy singles, one day they tell you to buy packs. At the end of the day, do what makes you happy. And you know what makes me happy? Building a Lord of the Nazgul deck like this and enjoying my Magic the Gathering collection. So there you have it. Muscles, Magic the Gathering. Do me a favor. I want this to be the most positive, the happiest, the most educational Magic the Gathering channel on the planet. So subscribe. Please, please, please help support the channel. And do me a favor, go in the comments and let me know, what mistakes have you made when it comes to your collection, when it comes to deck building? I would love to hear it. And there are so many incredible people like you out there that have so much wonderful advice to give. I love reading it. I learned so much from the comments in this community. So please, please, please do that. And as always, stay tuned for the next episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering.